Maya's hands trembled as she stood in Dante Romano's private office, surrounded by men in expensive suits who looked at her like she was invisible. The Mafia boss sat behind his massive mahogany desk, his dark eyes fixed on the Russian man across from him, a man whose weapon was clearly visible beneath his jacket. "Tell him," Dante said coldly, not even glancing at Maya, "that if he doesn't have my money by midnight, his family will receive pieces of him in the mail." The translator Dante had hired stammered, clearly terrified. But Maya heard the Russian's response, understood every venomous word he spat back. Words the translator was too afraid to repeat accurately. Maya's heart pounded. She shouldn't speak. She was just the maid. Invisible. Safe in her invisibility, but Dante was walking into a trap. "Mr. Romano," she heard herself say, her voice cutting through the tension. "He's lying." Every head in the room turned toward her. Dante's eyes locked onto hers, dark and dangerous. "What did you say? What secret has Maya been hiding? And why would she risk everything to save a man as dangerous as Dante Romano? Keep watching to discover how one moment of courage changed everything. 3 months earlier, Maya had stood in the service entrance of the Romano mansion, her worn sneakers a stark contrast to the marble floors that stretched before her. Her interview had been brief. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, had barely looked at her resume before nodding. "You start tomorrow, 6 a.m., don't be late. And don't bother Mr. Romano. Don't bother Mr. Romano." Those 4 words had become Maya's mantra during her first weeks at the mansion. She moved through the palatial rooms like a ghost, cleaning, organizing, existing in the spaces between the lives of people who would never see her as anything more than help. She had learned to be invisible long before coming here. After her father's hedge fund collapsed in scandal 3 years ago, Maya had watched her entire world disintegrate. The private schools, the language tutors, the summers abroad, all of it gone. Her family's name became poison. Her mother's friends stopped calling. The media had been merciless, so Maya had disappeared. She'd changed her last name, buried her degrees from Columbia, and taken jobs that required nothing but her hands and her silence. Being a maid wasn't beneath her. Nothing honest was beneath her. But she couldn't risk anyone connecting her to the Sinclair scandal, especially not someone like Dante Romano, who built his empire on information and leverage. The mansion was more fortress than home. Security cameras watched every corner. Men in dark suits patrolled the grounds. Maya had learned their routes, their shift changes, the moments when she could move unseen. She'd also learned about Dante Romano, though she'd barely spoken to him. He was 34, devastatingly handsome in that dangerous way that made smart women stupid. Dark hair always perfectly styled, suits that cost more than she'd make in a year, and eyes that seemed to calculate the worth of everything they touched. He was also utterly alone. Maya noticed it in the little things. The way he took his coffee, black, scalding hot, first thing every morning. The reading glasses he wore only when he thought no one was watching. The nights when she'd come to clean his office late and find him standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring out at the city lights with an expression of such profound loneliness, it made her chest ache. She shouldn't care. Couldn't care. He was a criminal, no matter how attractive or lonely he seemed. But then came the morning that changed everything. Maya was cleaning the second-floor library, her favorite room, filled with books in dozens of languages, when she heard raised voices from Dante's office down the hall. She froze, duster in hand. "I don't care what it costs," Dante's voice carried through the door. "Find someone who speaks Mandarin, Russian, Arabic, and Italian. I have a meeting in 6 hours and I need someone I can trust." "Boss, every translator in the city is already working or unavailable," another voice responded. "We're trying, but try harder." Maya's heart raced. She spoke all 4 of those languages, plus French, Portuguese, and Japanese. Her father had insisted she learn them for business. Now they were just another piece of her past she had to hide. She should walk away, keep cleaning, stay invisible. But she thought about the files she'd accidentally seen last week while cleaning Dante's office. Shipping manifests that didn't match the legitimate businesses he owned. Names she recognized from news reports about organized crime. If dangerous people were coming to meet with him, and he didn't have a translator he could trust, Maya found herself knocking on his office door before she could talk herself out of it. "What?" The word was sharp, annoyed. She opened the door. Dante sat behind his desk, jaw tight with frustration. Two of his men stood nearby, both looking equally stressed. All three stared at her like she'd materialized out of thin air. "Mr. Romano," Maya said, keeping her voice steady. "I couldn't help but overhear. I speak all 4 languages you need. I can help." The silence that followed felt eternal. Dante's dark eyes swept over her, really seeing her for the first time. She watched him take in her simple uniform, her natural curls pinned back in a practical bun, the nervous way she gripped the duster. "You speak Mandarin?" His tone was skeptical. "Wo shuo de hen liu li," she replied smoothly. "I speak it fluently." Something shifted in his expression. "Russian?" "Ya mogu perevodit delia vas." "I can translate for you." "Arabic?" "Ana atakalamu sab'a lugat." "I speak 7 languages." Dante leaned back in his chair, studying her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "What's your name?" "Maya, sir." "Maya what?" She hesitated for just a fraction of a second. "Maya Brooks." He didn't believe her. She could see it in the way his eyes narrowed, but he needed her, and they both knew it. "Antonio," Dante said to one of his men, never breaking eye contact with Maya. "Background check, full workup. I want to know everything about her by this afternoon." Maya's stomach dropped, but she kept her face neutral. The background check would show her manufactured history, 3 years of housekeeping jobs, a GED instead of her Columbia degrees, a cheap apartment in Brooklyn. It wouldn't connect her to the Sinclair scandal. She'd been careful. "The meeting is at 2 p.m., Dante said. "Can you be ready?" "Yes, sir." "And Maya." His voice dropped lower, more dangerous. "If you repeat anything you hear in that meeting to anyone, you'll disappear. Do you understand?" She should be terrified. She was terrified. But she met his eyes and nodded. "I understand." "Good. Antonio will brief you on what to expect. Don't make me regret this." As Maya left the office, her hands shook. What had she just done? She'd just volunteered to step directly into Dante Romano's world, a world of violence and secrets she'd been desperately trying to avoid. But as she passed by the library again, she caught a glimpse of herself in one of the ornate mirrors. For the first time in 3 years, she didn't see the ghost of privilege she'd been trying to hide. She saw herself, smart, capable, worthy of being seen. Even if being seen might destroy everything she'd built. Maya just revealed her hidden talents to the most dangerous man in the city. But what will Dante do when he discovers she's hiding even more? The meeting that's about to unfold will test everything she thought she knew about survival. The meeting took place in a private room at one of Dante's restaurants, a legitimate business that served as cover for less legitimate dealings. Maya had changed from her uniform into simple black slacks and a white blouse that Mrs. Chen had found for her. She looked professional but unremarkable, which was exactly what she needed. Dante arrived 15 minutes before the scheduled meeting, flanked by 4 of his men. He wore a charcoal grey suit that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe, and when his eyes found her, she felt the assessment in his gaze like a physical touch. "The background check came back," he said, approaching her. 3 years of housekeeping, GED, no priors, unremarkable." Maya kept her expression neutral, even as relief flooded through her. "Yes, sir. Except you speak 7 languages." He moved closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtly intoxicating. "How does a housekeeper with a GED speak 7 languages, Maya?" She'd prepared for this question. "My mother was a language teacher. She believed education was the one thing no one could take from you. The lie was built on truth. Her mother had believed that, had insisted Maya learn languages even when her father thought it was impractical." Dante studied her face, searching for deception. "You're lying about something," her heart hammered. "Everyone has secrets, Mr. Romano." "Not from me." His voice was soft, deadly. "I'm going to find out what you're hiding." "Perhaps," Maya said, surprising herself with her boldness. "But right now you need me to do a job. Your guests will arrive in 10 minutes. For a long moment they stared at each other. Then, impossibly, the corner of his mouth lifted in something that might have been respect. "You're braver than you look," he said. "Let's see if you're as competent." The meeting was exactly as dangerous as Maya had feared. 3 Chinese businessmen arrived first, followed by 2 Russian mob enforcers, and finally an Italian associate from one of New York's other crime families. They were negotiating a shipping route, one that would move merchandise through ports Dante controlled. Maya translated flawlessly, her voice steady even as her mind raced with the implications of what she was hearing. These men were discussing human trafficking, weapon shipments, and drug routes like they were talking about the weather. But she also noticed something the others didn't. The Chinese businessman's Mandarin was too formal, too careful. He was choosing his words with precision that suggested he understood more English than he was letting on. He was testing Dante, looking for weakness. When there was a break in the conversation, Maya leaned close to Dante and whispered in English, "The older Chinese man understands English. He's testing you. When you offer terms, he'll pretend through me that he didn't understand the nuance, then use it against you later." Dante's expression didn't change, but his hand briefly touched her lower back, a gesture of acknowledgement that sent an unexpected shiver through her. "Thank you," he murmured. "Keep listening." The meeting continued for 2 hours. Maya translated, but she also watched. She saw the power dynamics, the undercurrents of violence, the careful dance of men who trusted no one, and she saw Dante command the room with a quiet authority that was more effective than any show of force. He was intelligent, frighteningly so. He caught nuances, she translated, asked pointed questions that revealed he understood far more about international business than a street thug would. This wasn't just a criminal. This was a businessman who happened to operate outside the law. When the meeting finally concluded, deals made and alliances tentatively formed, Dante walked the other parties out personally. Maya stayed in the room, her legs shaky with relief and residual adrenaline. She'd done it. She'd helped a Mafia boss negotiate deals that would probably result in people being hurt, exploited, killed. The weight of that realization made her sink into one of the leather chairs. What had she become? "You did well." Dante's voice startled her. She hadn't heard him return. He stood in the doorway, studying her with those penetrating dark eyes. "Better than well. You saved me from walking into that bastard's trap." "I just translated," Maya said quietly. "No." He moved into the room, closing the door behind him. "You observed. You analyzed. You protected me." He tilted his head. "Why?" "It's my job. Your job is to clean my house." He sat in the chair across from her, suddenly close, the air between them charged with something Maya didn't want to name. "You volunteered for this, knowing what I am, what I do. Why?" Maya met his eyes. "Because you needed help, and because invisible people see things others miss. I saw you needed someone you could trust in that room." "And you think I can trust you?" His voice was soft, dangerous. "I think," Maya said carefully, "that I just proved you can." Dante leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his face inches from hers. "What are you hiding, Maya Brooks?" Her breath caught. This close, she could see the flecks of amber in his dark eyes, the faint scar above his left eyebrow, the way his jaw tensed like he was fighting something. "Nothing that would hurt you," she whispered. "Everything hurts me eventually." His gaze dropped to her lips, then back to her eyes. "But I find I don't care. I want you to work for me, not as a maid, as my translator, my advisor. That's dangerous. I'm a dangerous man." His lips curved in a smile that was more threat than humor. "But I protect what's mine. And if you work for me, Maya, you'll be mine to protect." The possessiveness in his voice should have terrified her. Instead, it sent heat curling through her belly. "I don't want to be owned." "No," Dante agreed. "You want to be seen. And I see you." He stood, extending his hand. "Triple your current salary. Your own suite in the mansion, protection from anyone who might want to use you to get to me. All I ask is your loyalty and your honesty." Maya stared at his outstretched hand. This was a line she couldn't uncross. Once she stepped into his world fully, there would be no going back to invisibility, no safety in being overlooked. But wasn't she already in his world? Hadn't she already crossed that line the moment she knocked on his office door? She placed her hand in his. His fingers closed around hers, warm and strong and completely engulfing. "I accept." "Good." He pulled her to her feet, suddenly close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "One more thing, Maya. Those secrets you're keeping. I will find them out eventually. But when I do, I hope you'll trust me enough to tell me why you ran from your past." Her heart stopped. "How did you—" "People don't learn 7 languages from a teacher, Mother, and then become a housemaid," he said simply. "They don't carry themselves like you do, speak like you do, observe like you do, unless they've been trained for something more. You fell from somewhere high, and someone hurt you badly enough that you chose to hide instead of climb back up." Tears burned Maya's eyes. In 3 years, no one had looked at her closely enough to see that. No one had cared enough to wonder. "I won't push," Dante continued, his thumb stroking over her knuckles in a gesture so gentle it broke something in her chest. "But when you're ready to stop hiding, I'll be here. And I'll make sure whoever made you feel like you had to disappear pays for it." It was the promise of a violent man, a criminal, someone who solved problems with force and fear. But it was also the first time in 3 years anyone had offered to protect her instead of use her. "Thank you," Maya whispered. Dante released her hand slowly, like he was reluctant to let go. "Your new room is ready. Antonio will take you there. Rest. Tomorrow, we have work to do." As Maya left the restaurant, escorted by Antonio to a car that was nicer than anything she'd owned even in her previous life, she realized something terrifying and exhilarating. She didn't want to be invisible anymore. And Dante Romano had just given her permission to exist. Dante has pulled Maya from the shadows into his dangerous world, but as she steps into the light, the secrets of her past are getting harder to hide. What happens when the most powerful man in the city discovers the truth about the woman he's starting to care for? Keep watching, the revelation is coming. Maya's new suite was larger than her entire Brooklyn apartment had been. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. The furniture was elegant without being ostentatious, and the bathroom had a tub large enough to swim in. It was beautiful, comfortable. It was a gilded cage. For 2 weeks, Maya worked as Dante's personal translator and advisor. She attended meetings with international associates, vetted documents in multiple languages, and provided insights that saved him millions in bad deals. She was good at her job, better than good. And Dante noticed. He noticed everything about her. The way she took her coffee with too much sugar. The fact that she unconsciously braided small sections of her hair when she was thinking. That she had nightmares sometimes. He'd heard her cry out one night and appeared at her door in pajama pants and nothing else. Concern etched on his face until she convinced him she was fine. They spent hours together, in his office, at restaurants where business was conducted over meals she'd never be able to afford on her own. Once, memorably, in the back of his armored SUV, while they traveled to meet with a weapons dealer who insisted on doing business in a warehouse in Jersey. And with every hour, every conversation, every moment he looked at her, like she was the most fascinating thing in his world, Maya fell deeper into dangerous territory. She was falling for Dante Romano. It was foolish. Impossible. He was a criminal who ordered people killed with the same casualness most people ordered coffee. His world was violence and betrayal, and moral compromises she couldn't justify. But he was also the man who brought her chamomile tea when she worked late, who remembered she mentioned loving Italian opera and took her to a private performance, who listened when she talked about books and ideas and dreams she'd thought she'd buried forever. He saw her, the real her. And somehow, he seemed to like what he saw. "You're thinking too hard," Dante said one evening. They were in his private study, reviewing contracts for a legitimate real estate deal, one of the few parts of his business that was actually legal. Maya glanced up from the Portuguese document she was translating. "Just concentrating," No. He set down his pen and leaned back in his chair, studying her. You get a little line right here when you concentrate. He gestured to the space between his eyebrows. This is different, this is worry, what's wrong? How could she explain that she was worried about caring too much for him? That every day she stayed here, she compromised pieces of herself she'd sworn to protect? I was just thinking about my old life, she said instead. A truth, if not the whole truth. Tell me about it. Dante stood, moving to the sideboard where he kept expensive scotch. He poured 2 glasses, bringing one to her. You never talk about your past. Neither do you, Maya countered, accepting the glass. Touché. He settled into the chair beside hers instead of behind his desk, a small intimacy that made her pulse quicken. I'll trade you. 1 truth for 1 truth. Maya sipped her scotch, letting the burn give her courage. Okay, but you go first. Dante was quiet for a long moment, his expression distant. My father built this empire, he finally said. He was brutal, efficient, and utterly without conscience. He taught me that weakness was death, that trust was liability, that the only thing that mattered was power. He met her eyes. He also beat my mother until she stopped fighting back, stopped talking, stopped being a person. She died when I was 16, overdose. Official story was accidental, but we both know what it really was. Maya's heart clenched. I'm sorry. Don't be, I killed him 6 months later. Dante's voice was matter-of-fact. Made it look like a rival family, took over his organization, and I swore I would never be like him. He took a long drink. But here I am, doing the same brutal work, just with better justifications. You're not like him, Maya said quietly. You're not cruel for cruelty's sake. You have limits. Do I? His laugh was bitter. Or do I just hide it better? Maya set down her glass and did something reckless. She reached out and took his hand. His fingers tensed in surprise, then slowly relaxed, curling around hers. You brought me tea when I was working late, she said. You remembered I love Puccini. You asked my opinion and actually listened to my answers. Your father wouldn't have done any of that. Maybe I'm just good at manipulation. Then why do you look so lonely when you think no one's watching? The question hung between them. Dante stared at their joined hands, his thumb moving in slow circles against her palm. Your turn. Tell me what you're running from. Maya's instinct was to deflect, to lie. But he'd given her truth. Raw, painful truth. He deserved the same. My father was Marcus Sinclair, she said, watching Dante's eyes widen in recognition. The hedge fund manager who stole billions from investors. It was all over the news 3 years ago. I remember. Dante's voice was careful. He went to prison. 25 years. Maya's voice shook. But it wasn't just him who paid. My mother couldn't handle the shame. She divorced him, moved to Europe, changed her name. My brother... Her throat closed. My brother was in law school. The harassment got so bad he dropped out. Last I heard, he was working construction in Texas under an assumed name. And you became a maid. I became invisible, Maya corrected, because everywhere I went as Maya Sinclair, people saw dollar signs or revenge. They wanted me to pay for what my father did. So I became someone else, someone no one would look at twice. Until me. Dante's hand tightened on hers. Until you. She met his eyes. I knew it was risky. I knew you might find out, but when I heard you needed help, I couldn't stay invisible anymore. Not with you. Dante was quiet for a long time, processing. Maya waited for the anger, the betrayal, the calculation of how he could use this information. Instead, he asked, Did you know about what your father was doing? No. I was 23, finishing my master's degree. I thought he was brilliant and successful and honest. Shame burned through her. I was so stupid. You were trusting. That's different. Dante stood, pulling her up with him. Suddenly they were close, his free hand coming up to cup her face. Thank you for telling me. You're not angry I lied about my name. You didn't lie. You survived. His thumb brushed her cheekbone, and Maya's breath caught at the tenderness in the gesture. And I meant what I said. I protect what's mine. That includes your secrets. Why? The question came out as a whisper. Why do you care about protecting me? Dante's eyes dropped to her lips, and the air between them turned electric. Because, he said softly, you're the first person in my life who sees me as more than a weapon or a wallet. You see the man I'm trying to be, not just the monster I am. You're not a monster. Maya. Her name on his lips was a warning and a plea. If I kiss you right now, everything changes. You need to know that. I don't do casual, I don't share. If I make you mine, it's absolute. She should run, should put distance between them, should remember that he was a criminal and she was trying to rebuild a legitimate life. But when had she ever made the safe choice? Then make me yours, Maya whispered. Dante's control shattered. He kissed her with a hunger that stole her breath, his hands sliding into her hair as he pulled her against him. Maya melted into him, her hands gripping his shoulders, 3 years of loneliness and fear dissolving in the heat of his touch. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. You're mine now. Maya. Mine to protect. Mine to care for. Mine to... The explosion cut off his words. The windows shattered inward as the blast wave hit the mansion. Dante immediately covered Maya's body with his, crushing her to the floor as glass rained down around them. She felt him tense, heard him curse in Italian. Stay down, he commanded, already moving toward the weapon safe hidden behind a bookshelf. What's happening? Maya's ears rang from the blast. Someone just declared war. Dante's voice was cold, lethal, the voice of the killer he'd claimed he wasn't. He pulled out 2 guns, checked them with practiced efficiency. And they made a fatal mistake. What mistake? He looked at her, and for the first time Maya saw the full dangerous truth of who Dante Romano was. They threatened what's mine. The attack on Dante's mansion has begun, and Maya is caught in the crossfire. But who would dare attack the most powerful man in the city? And more importantly, will Maya's hidden skills be the key to their survival? The explosive conclusion is next. The mansion was under siege. Through the broken windows, Maya could hear gunfire, shouting in Russian, the screech of tires. Dante's security team was engaging the attackers, but from the sounds of it they were outnumbered. The panic room, Dante said, gripping her arm. 3rd floor, behind the... I know where it is, Maya interrupted, but I'm not hiding while people die for us. Maya, those are Russian voices, she said urgently. I can hear them coordinating their attack. They're using a frequency-based entry code on your front gate that they think you don't know. Let me listen. I can tell you their positions, their plans. Dante stared at her for a split second, clearly torn between protecting her and using the advantage she offered. Then he nodded sharply, pulling her toward the interior of the house away from the windows. They made it to his command center, a room filled with security monitors and communication equipment. Antonio was already there with 3 other men, coordinating the defense. Boss, we're pinned down on the south side, Antonio reported. They've got at least 20 men, heavy weapons. This is the Volkov family, I'm sure of it. Why would Volkov attack? Dante demanded. We have a treaty. Maya moved to the monitors, listening to the radio chatter. The Russian voices were clear to her, their tactical instructions painting a picture of the attack. Then she heard something that made her blood run cold. They're not here for territory, she said urgently. They're here for a person. They keep saying the translator. Dante, they're here for me. Every man in the room turned to stare at her. What? Dante's voice was dangerously quiet. Maya's mind raced, putting together pieces she'd been too naive to see. The meeting 2 weeks ago. The Chinese businessman who was testing you. I exposed his deception, helped you get better terms, but what if... Her stomach dropped. What if he was working with Volkov? What if they were planning to use that deal to undermine you and I ruined it? So Volkov wants revenge by taking my translator, Dante finished, his jaw clenched. He wants to send a message that no one helps me without paying a price. We need to get her out, Antonio said. Use the tunnels. They know about the tunnels, Maya interrupted, still listening to the Russian chatter. They have men stationed at every exit. They've been planning this for days. She turned to Dante, seeing the cold fury in his eyes. I'm sorry. This is my fault. No. Dante's hand cupped her face, forcing her to meet his gaze. This is on them, and they're going to learn what happens when they threaten what's mine. He turned to Antonio. Get Viktor Volkov on the phone. Now. Boss? He's not going to... He will when I tell him I have something he wants more than revenge. It took 3 tense minutes for the call to connect. Dante put it on speaker, his hand never leaving Maya's shoulder, an anchor, a claim, a promise. Romano, Viktor Volkov's heavily accented voice crackled through. Ready to hand over the girl? No, Dante said calmly, but I am ready to offer you a deal. Call off your attack and I'll give you the information you really want. Silence. Then, what information? The real reason the Chinese deal fell apart wasn't my translator catching your spy, Dante said. It was because I knew about it all along. I let you think you were manipulating me while I was gathering evidence of every illegal deal you've made in this city. Port manifests, bank records, names of every official you've bribed. He smiled coldly. Evidence that, if it reached the FBI, would see you in prison for life. Maya's eyes widened. He'd known. This whole time. You're bluffing, Viktor said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. Am I? Tell me, Viktor, how did your weapons shipment go missing last Tuesday? The one you blamed on faulty intel? That was me. The judge you paid off who suddenly decided to retire? Me. I've been bleeding you dry for months and you didn't even notice. The silence stretched. Maya could hear her own heartbeat. What do you want? Viktor finally asked. Leave now. Never threaten what's mine again. And in exchange, I'll let you keep doing business in this city. You can even have the Chinese deal. I'll restructure the terms to favor you. Dante's voice hardened. But if you ever come near Maya again, I'll release everything I have and watch your empire burn. Your choice. Another long silence. Then, through the security monitors, Maya watched as the Russian attackers began to retreat. Vehicles pulled away, the gunfire ceased. Viktor's voice came through one last time. We have a deal, but Romano, your kindness is going to get you killed someday. Maybe, Dante agreed, but not today. The line went dead. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Antonio let out a breath. Jesus, boss, you've been playing Volkov this whole time. I play everyone, Dante said. It's how I stay alive. He turned to Maya, his expression softening. Are you okay? She wasn't. She was shaking, adrenaline and fear and relief crashing through her in waves. You knew about the spy. You used me. No. Dante's hands framed her face. I suspected. Your confirmation gave me certainty. But I never used you, Maya. I protected you. Everything I just did was to keep you safe. By threatening to destroy another criminal empire. By doing whatever it takes. His thumbs brushed away tears she didn't realize she'd shed. I told you. You're mine to protect. I meant it. Maya stared up at him, at this complicated, dangerous, impossible man who just saved her life by being more ruthless than their enemies. You're genuinely crazy. Probably. He smiled, and it transformed his face into something younger, lighter. But I'm your particular brand of crazy now. Despite everything, the danger, the violence, the moral compromises, Maya laughed. It bubbled up from somewhere deep inside, 3 years of tension releasing in that moment. Dante kissed her, soft and sweet, a sharp contrast to the chaos they'd just survived. When he pulled back, his eyes were serious. No more hiding, he said. Not from me, not from yourself. You're brilliant and brave, and you speak 7 goddamn languages. The world tried to make you small, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows how extraordinary you are. Even if that brings more danger, especially then. His smile was dangerous, promising. Because anyone who tries to hurt you will learn exactly why people fear the Romano name. It should terrify her, this possessive, violent love he was offering, but Maya had been invisible for 3 years. She'd been silent, scared, small. Dante Romano saw her, all of her, and he was willing to burn the world to keep her safe. Okay, she whispered. No more hiding. Good. He kissed her forehead, then her nose, then her lips. Because I have plans for you, Maya Brooks. Or should I say, Maya Sinclair? Neither, she said. I want to be Maya Romano." Dante went very still. "Are you—" "Not today," Maya clarified quickly, "but someday, if you're patient, if you prove that the man I see right now is who you really are." "I'll prove it," Dante promised, "every single day." And as his security team worked to secure the mansion, as the first light of dawn began to break over the city, Maya let herself believe in second chances. She'd fallen from grace 3 years ago, lost everything, become invisible. But now, in the arms of the most dangerous man in New York, she finally felt seen. 6 months later, Maya stood in Dante's penthouse office, their office now reviewing contracts for a new legitimate business venture, a translation and consulting firm that served international clients, completely legal, completely hers. Dante had backed it financially, but the business was her vision, her expertise. He'd insisted she have something of her own, something that acknowledged her intelligence and capability. "You're thinking too hard again," Dante said, coming up behind her, his arms wrapped around her waist, his chin resting on her shoulder. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong," Maya said, leaning back into his warmth. "I'm just happy. It's strange. Get used to it." He pressed a kiss to her neck. "I plan to make you insufferably happy for the foreseeable future." Maya turned in his arms, studying his face. In 6 months, she'd seen him be ruthless, protective, surprisingly gentle, and occasionally ridiculous. She'd learned that he sang off-key in the shower, that he read philosophy books when he couldn't sleep, that he had a weakness for terrible action movies. She'd also learned that he was working to legitimize more of his business. It would take years, maybe decades, but he was trying, for her, for the future they were building. "I love you," she said, the first time she'd said it aloud. Dante's eyes widened, then softened with emotion so raw it made her chest ache. "I love you too, Mia Bella, my beautiful, brilliant, brave Maya." He kissed her, and Maya lost herself in it. In him. In this impossible, wonderful life they were creating together. She'd come to his mansion as a maid, invisible and scared. She'd revealed her hidden talents and risked everything. And she'd found not just safety, but love. Not just protection, but partnership. The woman who'd been invisible for 3 years was now the most important person in Dante Romano's world. And that, Maya thought, as Dante carried her toward their bedroom, was better than any fairy tale ending. Thank you for watching Maya and Dante's story. Did you love seeing Maya transform from invisible maid to Dante's equal? Do you think their love can survive the dangers still to come? Drop a comment below telling me your favorite moment. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more passionate Mafia romance stories. What kind of story should I tell next? Another powerful boss falling for an unexpected woman? Let me know.